Well, good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. I got a new project today. So we just landed down here at Kissimmee and enjoying the nice warm weather. Of course, first thing we did with the RV, got down here because it was 80-something degrees, turned on the air conditioners, and I noticed the front air wasn't doing very well at all. I got my temperature gauge out and measured it. I was only getting about a 10-12 degree split. With the same air conditioner on the rear, I was getting about a 25-26 degree split. So what I'm about to do in this project is replace our Coleman RV roof air conditioners, which they've been around, I've been running them for 20 years. So they've served well, so I'm not complaining about that, but I want to try something different. I've done some research and I'm hearing a lot of good reviews about these Furrion air conditioners, rooftop air conditioners. I talked to some RV techs that's installed them, talked to some large RV dealerships that's been installing them for over a year now. And when I talked to, he hasn't had not one return yet, none that he's had to work on after they've installed. So that looks pretty good to me. And another thing I like, the fact we're going to be going up from a 13,500 BTU, now we're going up to a 15,500 BTU. Of course, I've already checked, we already got a 20 amp breaker, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I'm gonna do some tests because my current Coleman compressor is still running. So I'm gonna do some sound tests, I'm gonna do some amp load tests, so I can show you a before and after. So I guess let's go inside and I'll show you a little bit more paperwork and what we're about to do. Okay, so here's our current victim. This is our Coleman Mach. It's been running good for 20 years. And you see I've got my gauge and stuff up here. I've been doing some temperature measurements. And just to point out, these things are good, but they're really not the best for air. They're good for surface temperature, but not so much for air. So you really need something, and I love this tool. I'll try to remember to put a link to it. And if you've got an RV, this is an awesome tool to have because it does so much. It's SC440 for AC, DC, and it's got the snap amp gauge on it and all that. But it's got this thermistor on the end of it. So with this little bulb here, it gives us exact air temperature. So that works out really well. So we can determine exactly what the split is. And like I said, I'm only getting about 12 degree split at best. So just not cooling very well, and I went up, there's no evidence. In fact, I even called Coleman, talked to their tech, and it's pretty common. They leak so slow you wouldn't even have evidence of a leak. In fact, they're not serviceable, so unless you actually found the leak, could fix the leak, there's really not a whole lot you do. You just replace it. After 20 years, it's done well. So that's what we're going to do. Oh, in fact, the RV tech, or the Coleman tech I talked to, he said he's seen hundreds of them act the same way, where they just don't cool well, even though you don't have any evidence of an actual leak, oil, or anything like that, or on the fins or compressor. So let's see what we got down here. So you can see I got my sound meter out here, so we're going to do some sound checks with the old and the new and get it to come on. There we go. So you see how that's working. I'll fixing to turn that on. We'll get a measurement. Then after we get the new one installed, we'll get a measurement, see if it's any quieter. I'm hoping the new one is. Don't know if it will be or not. Then do some amp loads to see if it's going to, how much more amps it's going to run. In this kit, because I'm going to a Coleman, they make a conversion kit. So you get this little connector, some of these little spacer blocks, screws. So that should make the project pretty easy. Here's the exact model I'm using, and I will put a link to this and everything I use below this video. And you can see our specs here: 15,500 BTUs. R410A is the refrigerant, where the old Coleman had an R22, I noticed. And there's our amps, 15.4. What's our weight on this thing? We're coming in at like 81 pounds, and I believe the Coleman comes in at 110. So we'll get a little weight off the roof too, all that. So all right, so let's get some sound checks. Okay, so you can see our settings. Got the fan on, compressor's on, we're on high. Alright, and this is something different. This is called a Coleman Mach. This is called a chill grill that I added a couple years ago. Did a video on it. Originally when we first got this from Winnebago, it just had a big grill here only. And and all it did was blow air through the vents. I did not have the option to dump the air straight down. Now with the Coleman Mach chill grill, you have the option to shut these vents off, and that forces all the air through the roof vents. But if you want to cool down more rapidly, you can open these vents up and it dumps right into the room. So that was little add-on. I did a video many years ago on that. So if you got a Coleman Mach, you just got a huge big grill up here, and it's real pain because you got to drop the whole filter down to replace the filter, or drop the grill to put in a new filter, and the screws get wore out over the years. So I like this a whole lot better, and got those little filters that pop out. So anyway, let's do our sound check. We've got it running. All right, so that's 57, 59. Okay, now that's with the dumping the air out. See if that makes any difference. Shut them off. Makes it a little bit quieter. Staying around 55. Yeah, when I'm not talking, it's about 55. When I talk, it bumps up. Again, let's dump the air back out, see what kind of difference we get. Not much difference, about 4 dB difference with the air dumping out. Okay, so now let me do some amp testing. Okay, so I'm going to do my amp load test. You can see right here we're drawing 0 amps. What I've done, I've turned off all the breakers except for the one breaker for the air conditioner. So now let's kick on, let's go fan only. We'll see what the amp draw is fan only, so I have a comparison. Okay, so fan only, 2.7, and the fan is on high. Let's do fan low. Very little difference, is there? Okay, now let's kick on the compressor and see what it jumps up to and holds at. It's spiked to 18, and we're running there 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, 8 amps. We'll let it run here for a minute. Okay, so we're hovering around 8 amps. Yep, pretty steady, 8 amps. So we'll be able to compare that when we get the new one installed, what its running amps will be. Because I am concerned of possibly what it may spike to when initial startup. Well, another thing, so while we're talking about amps, I called Furrion, the company, talked to their technical support and asked them what their thoughts were on those soft start kits. And they said if you install a soft start kit on one of their air conditioners, it voids the warranty. So that's what I was told. And because I really don't try to run the air conditioners off batteries or anything like that, or small generators, so I've never had the need for a soft start kit. But I do know they're becoming more popular. But I just thought I'd put that information out there in case you was thinking about doing that. So my goal is to reuse all this. You know, the Coleman mounting plate here, the chill grill. That's my goal. So we'll see how it plays out as I get it all apart and back together. So all I gotta do is pull out 4 Phillips screws, drop this plastic cover. First thing I want to do, I want to confirm that my little connector actually does fit my Coleman unit. So I don't want to get too far and find out something's not going to work. It gives you a little idea how this chill grill works. Because here's your air intake, it comes up through here, that gets filtered. Then with the chill grill, it gives you 2 options. So you either blow the air down and out through those vents, out through the front and to the rear. When you shut off those little sliders, then it forces the air into the ductwork in the ceiling. So it'll feed these vents and feed these vents on both sides. So I'm hoping all this will work with the new Furrion air conditioner. We will see. So first off, before we get carried away, we'll make sure we don't have any power. You see my proximity tester is lighting up. We have power. So let's kill the breaker. Okay, there's my breaker. Got that. And make sure it's off. Alright, no power. Good to know. Alright, so now this is the part I wanted to confirm before I went too far. I want to make sure that wire connector is the same. So because we're going to be using this control box, the old Coleman Mach control box will control the new Furrion air conditioner. So you just give that a squeeze and unplug it. Alright, got a new little adapter here. Looks the same. Make sure it works. And it does. Alright. All right, you know how you want to do this stuff. You want to trust but verify. So I know that works good. So now we can continue to take more of this apart. One thing I'm wondering about, biggest thing is this divider, how it's going to work with the new one. I don't know if I may have to have a larger one or add more insulation to it, possibly. I don't know. But now I'll take this metal plate off here. These screws are about a mile long. I'll use my impact on those. And then we'll be getting close to taking the old air conditioner off. Alright, for this, get your little impact, 5/16, and undo these long screws. Now here's something a little bit different you're not going to see on yours. That little nut, I added that as a jam nut. The reason I did that, these things kept coming loose on me. So, you know, I was always having to tighten these screws up, it seemed like. So once I got the gasket compressed where I wanted to, I added these jam nuts, and that was never a problem no more. So we should get this out line this thing on. Let me get a couple more of these screws off. We'll get this plate out of the way. Oh, and another tip, label the plate when you take it off so you put it back in the same place, because I had to make some special screw holes when I mounted that chill grill to it, so that way I know everything lines back up. Alright, so I'm about to take the control box out. A little tip for you on getting it loose, because those wing nuts up in there, see that wing nut, it can be really tight and hard to get it broke free. Well, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Alright. Well, I just used me a small adjustable wrench. Got up in there and just broke it free. Then I was able to take it off real easy. So there's that. What else can we tell you? Oh yeah. So we got a little temperature sensor here. It needs to come out of the coil, because we were putting that in the new air conditioner. And so I guess all we gotta do now is move these two wing nuts. We should be able to lift the control box down. And I just dropped the wing nut. It went somewhere. Oh, there it is. All right, put that in my pocket. I'll need that later. One more wing nut. Okay. Let's see if we can get the control box out. I'm trying to be careful because I know I still got 12-volt power on it. Ta-da! Beautiful. Alright. So now, that should make it pretty easy. The air conditioner should just be able to lift off the roof. It may be stuck a little bit, seeing it's been on there for 20 years. Alright. So, I guess I've done all I can do down here. Okay, another tip for you. Because that thing was stuck pretty tight. So what I did, I put a whole lot of pressure on it, and it finally broke free. And you can see now it's lifting up. But it took a lot of pressure to get it broke free. Probably, you know, if you was up top, it might be a lot more of a problem dealing with a big plastic box. So this way, it might help you. Just push straight up and break it free instead of trying to get on the roof, pushing and pulling on the plastic and breaking it. Alright, for yours and mine viewing pleasure, let's take this thing apart, because you know how I am. My curiosity is getting to me. I got to see how it works, see what we can do, if anything, to even make it better than what it is. Let me see here. I got the screws out already. It's just Phillips screws. And let me get two hands so I take this off and not disturb nothing. Alright, easy enough. It just lifts straight off. And you can see our innards here. So first thing I always like to do with air conditioning stuff is check all the piping. Make sure nothing's rubbing anywhere. I do like how they got this plastic coming through here. So that plastic, because if you didn't have that and you get two pieces of copper rubbing on each other, they can wear a hole in themselves. It's called a rub out in air conditioning world, I believe. So all that looks good. And I like how they clamp things, keep things tight, keep things from vibrating. I guess that's a vibration absorber there, that little piece. Looks good, looks good. And I believe this is called a screw compressor. It's another reciprocating. It doesn't have pistons in it. So I suspect that's one reason why it should be a little bit quieter. One weak link is any of these passages will go into the evaporator area. Let's get this lifted off. Yeah, there's no screws and no sealing or anything. It just, that's one thing I wonder could be made. So when you push down on it, I wonder if you could come back here with some tape to make it a tighter seal. Anything to make it more efficient, even than what it is, possibly. Alright, get that off. Alright, so there's our evaporator. See, like areas like this, if that seal is not there or not done well, you're going to draw hot, humid air right into your airstream. Same way with this over here. So that's things you want to be mindful of. Keep eye on that. And I'm trying to see how the water flows on this. Okay, it looks like we've got a little valley here, so the water's going to drain down into the rear. So let's take this back part off. I've already got the screws out. Alright, so it lifts off. Alright, so they're kind of like this, because you see this in a lot of window unit air conditioners. The Coleman's wasn't this way. You know, this has a little pickup so it grabs the water. So as the water drips off your evaporator, it's going to come down the little trough. It's going to come in there and fill up that little tray. It's a little tray in the bottom all the way across. So that fills up with water. Then this ring is going to pick it up and sling it on the condenser, and that's going to help make it more efficient, help to cool it down and get rid of that excessive heat. So hopefully, but with this design, I'm assuming we should have a little bit less water spewing out all over the roof, because a lot of it hopefully will be evaporated by hitting that hot condenser. I like that idea. What else we got here? Well, we got two individual motors. Now here's a weak link. This right here. So all that warm, moist air is going to be coming through that gap. So if I was home, what I would do, I'd probably get me like a felt washer and put in behind here. So it would help keep that humid air out. I'm wondering about the life expectancy of these little motors, because they're not, you can't lubricate them, but you could probably very carefully punch a little hole with a drill bit where you could add oil to it. That would be my guess. That sounds like a project for another day. Got something I believe it's got just one capacitor. I looked at the parts manual. It's a very strange looking capacitor. I think it's got 4 terminals, not just 2, not just 3, but it's got 4. So it's quite unique. All in all, I like how it's laid out. We can probably make a couple of improvements, maybe, you know, to ensure it's more efficient. So I'll put this back together, but you know, be mindful. I took it apart with the impact, but when you put it back together, you want to be sure to use a screwdriver and use that torque wrench on your elbow, because you don't want to be stripping out. You know, that's only kind of a weak link, is these plastic things we're screwing into, but you can always get bigger screws if they strip out over time. All right, so I'll pop this back together, and then I got to get a strategy to get this up on the roof and not hurt me or the new air conditioner. Okay, I think here's an improvement that can be made. So you feel this, you can push that down about 1 inch before you hit that plastic top. Let me take it back off again, show you what I'm talking about. So if a person had like 2 inches of foam up here, just lay on top of this, so when you put the top on it, it would compress and keep pressure on that thing, and keep a tighter seal, because there's nothing to keep this down really. Even if you had some sort of clamp right here, because yeah, that's a little bit of a weak link, because you're vibrating and stuff. There's nothing to keep it tight. So that's something I'll probably come back to when I get back home, and see if we can't make a few improvements to it, make it even more efficient. That's my plan. Another thing I should mention, this is air only, it's not a heat pump. My Coleman that I'm removing is a heat pump model, but it's something we never really used. If it gets cold, we always just kick on a couple ceramic heaters. Never did worry about the heat pump. It was always kind of blew out cool air anyway. It really wasn't that warm, and I just didn't care for it. But I think I did see somewhere where they have electric heater options that you can install in these little heat strips, so you could still get warm air out of them if you wanted to, just off electric. So I thought I'd throw that in there for you. Alright, so I'm trying to get creative here because I'm just working with what I got. So I got some extension cord, and I don't know if it's Boy Scout approved or not, but this is what I've come up with. I'll lay it down. Maybe you get an idea how it's supposed to work. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Oh. There we go. So that's the plan. Try to get that on, slide that up that ladder with a little help. We'll get on the roof. I think I got it. I think I got it tied good enough. We will soon find out. Scary, isn't it? Okay, here's my plan of attack. I'm just waiting for a little muscle. So I'll get on the roof and have some muscle down at the bottom. Push, I'll pull. We'll see if we can't make it to the roof safely. That's the goal. So hold up here. I like this wrapping. Make sure you got at least a 50-foot extension cord. Oh, we're good. Thank you. Thank you. We got it.
I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Hi, puppy.
Catch him falling off the roof.
Yeah.
Okay, you recording, buddy? All right.
Hey, why don't you get down so you can push it up?
Well, you got to stand up here to get up there. You got to pass that push button. You ready?
That's not good. Okay, hold on a minute. Hit it right there. Sit it right there. Wait a minute. Hold what you got. Okay, hold on. John, you want to climb the ladder?
I got it.
You got it? You got it, Kevin?
Yep, I think I got it. Pretty close. No, you got to stop, Stop, Kevin, stop. Stop.
There we go.
We live to tell the tale. All right.
That Furrion, they seem to be.
Who is it? Is that my sweet pea down there?
Kevin!
Hello, sweet pea. Thank you. I probably need a whole roll of paper towel, actually, my sweetie. All right, so you can see what we got. Got this loose, and you can see we got it up here. I got to clean this good, and you can see these used to be my little contraptions that I made that would catch the water and run the water off the roof to keep from all the dirt and crap causing streaks on the side of the paint. So, but it's not going to work for this new one. So I'm gonna have to come up with a new design. We'll see how that plays out once we get it up and running. So first of all, I'm gonna get this surface cleaned off really good. It's been on there for 20 years. It's really interesting how Winnebago makes these roofs. You know, you got the Luan down here, the styrofoam, more Luan. Then you got what's it called, Phylon, the fiberglass layer that goes on top of it. Pretty cool. It's lasted all these years. Okay, as I was going to show you my little gutters I invented years ago, and they work out really good because a lot of times when you see that these are the drip holes for the water that drips out of the air conditioner. So the original design, they just land here on your roof and they run every which way, picks up all the dirt and stuff, runs down, goes down the side of the RV, creates streaks. So I thought it'd be nice to get that water off the side of the RV and not cause all those streaks. So I came up with this stuff, and I made a video on how to do it. This is just wire track like you put on the wall to hide a wire, and I put some kind of 3M bond material on there. It's really strong. So you can see how it works. With this in place, the water would drip out, would catch it in this little trough, and it'd run it right down over the side, off onto the ground, so not streak up with the RV. But anyway, it's not going to work for the new one, so we'll have to maybe come up with something different if we can. So let's get this in position and see how it's going to work. It's holding. Slide it down, slide her down. So that's how we got the old one off. Just made a ramp out of this my little giant ladder. Don't leave home without it. Never know when you're going to need it. Ta-da! It's good to have some friends and muscle. Alright, so this went a whole lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. I got me some, Scotch-Brite, because I had some real sticky stuff here, some little, I guess, like silicone or something, but anyway, I got that perfectly clean, and I did call, and they did say just put it down dry. There's no need to put any sealant on it. So I wanted to confirm that everything's good and dry and clean. So all I got to do now is lower it down, get it kind of close. I can fine tune it from underneath. I can push it around, get my bolts to line up. So, all right, let's lower that down and we'll get off this roof. Okay, so before I get off the roof, we'll give one last shot here. There you go, it looks nice. Old Coleman in the back, still humming. We'll see how much longer it lasts. It's 20 years old already, so I'm done up here. All I gotta do is go underneath, hook up a few wires, and plug her up. So you see I'm back underneath here, and you can easily maneuver it around if you're not lined up. You can push it side to side, front to rear, wherever you need to be. So here's a little adapter. This is what adapts our Coleman unit, so I use my Coleman mounting plate to fit up to the Furrion air conditioner. So I'll get that one in place, that one, and I gotta get the two in the back, and hopefully it'll fit. I don't have to do no whittling. So let's get that done. Alright, just to give you a better view of how this works. See, the bottoms they got threads in them. The top ones don't have threads. Just use the short bolt and just leave it open like that and tighten it up. That's all you got to do. Now, one thing would come in handy if you had a 3/8 ratchet wrench. It takes quite a bit of stretching to get that up there, but a regular 3/8 does just fine. It's just a little slower. Just get those slacked up all the way around, and then we'll be mounting our bottom plate. All right, we're on the final stretch right now. Just got to get this plate in position. Now you can see what I've done. I've added my locking nuts. That's something that's not going to come with it, but it's come in handy over the years to keep those screws from loosening up over time. I just hope those bolts ain't too long, but we'll soon find out. But this is where your oil impact comes in handy. With those long screws. So, all right, so I'll keep working on this. We'll see how close we get. Okay, well, I ran into my first snag. As you can see, the bolts that they send with this are just too long. See, they bottom out before it tightens up and begins to compress the gasket. So what I need is about a 2.5 inch bolt, but it's late at night, so I'm going to get my hacksaw blade out and hacksaw and see if I can't cut these. What I'll do, I'll probably just take my original bolts here and cut them down to 2.5 inches and see if that won't get this thing done tonight. So see, I'm getting a little creative. I had to cut these down to 2.5 inches, and because I don't have a vise, I do have a hacksaw blade, and I got a foot, so it's worked out pretty well. I just put it on the picnic table, and put my foot on there, and go to town and make a shorter bolt.
That's at home too.
Oh, and another tip, the nice thing about having this bolt on here, or this nut, I should say, once I cut that off, when I take the nut off, it cleans up the threads, so there's no burr. So that was handy that I had those nuts already here. All right, you see now we got shorter bolts, so that's going to help out a whole lot. And I'm going to snug it down a little bit. And one thing I got to get tomorrow is a torque wrench, because they say, I think you want to torque this down to 50 inch-pounds, if I remember right. But I'm just going to get it snug. That way, if there's any rain or anything, we don't have any water coming in. All right, so we're going to do some more torquing on this, and then I got to figure out how I'm going to mount this. So I got some more thinking to do. Okay, a few things I've got figured out. First of all, we got our freeze sensor. I got that in position. It wasn't in the manual that I found, but I remember seeing a video on Lippert's website, or Furrion's, I think that's the way it's pronounced, and it said to put it at about the second or third rung down from the top, in between the pipes. So I got that done. And the next thing is getting this box in position. I kind of like where it's at here. It works out pretty good because actually, if you see closely, there's a little lip right there. There's a lip, metal lip, and it just drops over, kind of locks in place. It can't go nowhere. But what I'm going to do to better secure it is I'm going to put me some Velcro on the back side. So that's my next step. I'll pull it back down, put my Velcro in place, then press it in there, and zip tie my wires in place. So I think that'll be good. I've got my divider piece in here because that's critically important. Because remember, you want to separate the hot side from the cold side. Because if you get to mixing air, you could have a freeze situation. Yeah, so, because if this wasn't sealing good, this cold air would come over, migrate into the warm side, keep getting colder and colder until it got so cold you'd have ice and restrict your airflow. All right, so let me pull this box back out and get my Velcro applied. All right, well, I was editing this video and there's a little bit of information I want to add for you. Remember this little wire that pokes into the fins? Well, that is a thermistor freeze sensor. So its job is, if you happen to get a icing condition, maybe it gets really cold in the RV, you set it down to 40 degrees or something like that, or there's an air restriction. So, or another thing, that baffle that's in between, it separates the hot and the cold I mentioned about, if that baffle got misplaced and you started recirculating the cold air over and over again, you could reach a point to where you start building up ice on these fins. And if you did, this sensor would detect it. And what it would do, it'd turn off the compressor. And then after it warmed up, it would turn the compressor back on over time. And because remember, this sensor is off of the old Coleman box. That's what it's doing and talking to the thermostat, telling it what to do. And here's from the Coleman manual, because I'm all about service manuals and explains what it does. So, because it prevents evaporative freeze-ups. So what it does, when it hits 31 degrees plus or minus 3 degrees, it will shut the compressor off. And it will not reset until it reaches 53 degrees. By then, everything's all warmed up and you're good to go again. So just wanted to let you know how that worked. Okay, I think you see my plan of attack. I got my 3 pieces of Velcro on here. I'll peel this off so it'll expose the sticky side. I'll carefully roll it up in there, push it in place, let it get stuck, and that should keep me in good shape so we can get this thing turned on. Okay, I think I'm really pleased with this. You see how tight it is. I'm pulling on it. It is tight. It ain't going nowhere. That Velcro is holding really well. And you can see I've tidied up my wires. Got things zip tied. Got everything mostly out of the airflow. Got a good shot of air coming down. Got my divider in place. Everything's looking good. Looking good. They say these blocks, once you compress it down, these blocks should come down to the roof. Kind of a gauge to know you got it compressed enough. But I'm going to wait till I get me a torque wrench. Hopefully I'll get one tomorrow, borrow one from somebody. I think it's 50 inch-pounds. I need to double check that. Let's make sure I get it compressed down good so we don't have any leaks. Okay, so I found it here in the manual. We want to torque them down evenly to 40 to 50 inch-pounds. Compress the roof gasket down to approximately 9/16. Alright, so that's what I know to do tomorrow. Alright, well, you see I got my inch-pound torque wrench, and I've already went around and I've applied 45 inch-pounds. Alright, I've done that all the way around, and you can see it talked about compressing it down to 9/16 of an inch, but it hasn't got there yet. But I'm going to leave it be going by the torque settings, because you can see how the difference is. See, it's wider here than it is here. So it's pulling it down more in the corners. So what I'm going to do is leave it like it is based on torque, not so much compression, because over time maybe this gasket will, compress more. And you can see how I got my wires all tucked up in here really nice, and I got my little jam nuts. So I'm gonna come in here and tighten these up, jam them good, so that won't be working loose. I like that idea. And you might want to do that on yours, because it seems like they's always working loose over time with vibration. So I'm going to leave it like this, and then in a month or two or a few weeks I'll come back and look at it to see if my torque has changed, and if it has, I'll keep torquing it down, you know, until maybe these spacer blocks get closer down. But I don't want to distort the roof or do anything else, because, you know, don't want to go past 50 inch-pounds. I'm at 45 right now, and everything seems good and tight. But the spacer, I did fire it up some last night, ran it, and I was getting like 38-degree air. So tomorrow we're going to have about 88 degrees here in Florida, so make for a good test. I'll get you some sound numbers, some amp numbers, and we'll make a good comparison that way. So we're almost finished. Oh yeah, one last thing before I put this cover on, I just want to show you how these jam nuts work. Get them snugged up. There you go. Good shape. We're ready to put the cover back on. Well, as you can see, I'm getting my chill grill installed, but I want to talk a little bit about this as I was putting it together, explain a little bit more how it works. So from the factory, when we got this RV, originally, we didn't have this type of grill. All we had was just like, it was a single grill with a bunch of square holes in it, and then it had just a filter material. So every time you wanted to clean the filter, you had to take the screws out, drop the grill down, clean the filter, put it back up. And the only option for airflow is the air would be drawn up into the air conditioner. It would come out, but at this point from the factory they had a metal plate. It was sealed off, so it forced the air to go into the ductwork, so the air would come throughout this vents and of course these vents. And I did not have an option just to dump the air straight into the room real quick. So going through these vents is nice because it keeps things quieter. But you know, if you happen to have a real hot situation, you want to cool the RV down faster, it's better to be able to get the air in and out as quick as possible to turn more CFMs, cubic feet per minute. And I just want to show you kind of how this works. So now, with the old one and new one works the same way. So we draw up through the filters. You've got a filter on both sides. It goes up through these two holes. Then the cold air is dumped out through this and hits this center channel. When it hits that, you know, it directs it either, you know, out these slots here on both sides. So I really like this chill grill. So if you happen to have that old style and you want something better, and I got a video of installing this, but you can see how easy it is. It's really no problem. All right, so I'm gonna finish putting this together, and then tomorrow hopefully we're gonna have a nice hot day. We'll give this through a good test. All right, so test number one today. See, my thermistor is up inside the return, and the air temperature coming in is 77.8. All right, so now we're gonna see that's 78 degrees. So we're gonna pull this out, and then we will put it here in the ductwork and see what happens. Glare out there. So we had 78. We saw 48, 78. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? 30-degree split. It's not cranking hot yet. Still kind of early in the day. It should get close to 90. So we'll do another test when it gets really hot. It just goes to show the split you can get on it. Where my old Coleman that was wore out, I was only getting maybe a 10, 12-degree split on it. I like it. Lighting up more all the time. Okay, so I'm on the roof. It's pretty bright up here. It's hard to see on this camera. But because you can hear the air conditioner's not that loud. But I wanted to get to the height, because when you look at those things, they look much taller for some reason. But you can see right here, we're coming in at 13. Of my camera in the right spot. It's hard for me to, oh, there it is. There you are. That 13 is 7/8. That's the height of the Coleman. Now let's go check the new one. Make it not break a leg. Get away from that noise. Yeah, you can see it's right at 14. Now it's not fully compressed. Remember, I believe it will compress down a little bit further. But anyway, about 1/8 of an inch difference. So that's not an issue at all. Good to go. We'll get down to a sound check too from outside. See what it sounds like back on the ground. Well, I promise you the air conditioner's on, but you can't hear it. Ain't that something? You know, some of these crazy air conditioners, they sound like jets. It can be loud and annoying. but let me just prove to you the crazy thing's on. So it's nice and quiet on the outside, so I'm pleased with that. Alright, well it is now 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's good and warm, as you can see, 91 degrees. Alright, so I've got all the breakers off to everything except for the 2 air conditioners. So you can see there's no amp draw on either leg. If you like these little things, I made a video on how to make them. So you monitor each leg. It's very, very handy tool to have on these older RVs to know what your loads are. Alright, so let's kick the air on to the, so on this side is going to be, I got a Coleman still on the rear. So my 20-year-old Coleman, which is a 13,500 BTU. Let's kick it on. Always like turning the fan on first, get things up and running, put it on high, then we'll turn on the air. Okay, so 7, 8 amps, that's what that's running. All right, now our new one, our new Furrion that we put on, it is 15,500 BTUs. Let's check its amps. And let's go here, because remember I just used all my old thermostats and stuff, so it made it so nice with this install. We're going to turn the fan on only. All right, then we're going to put the fan on high. So fan only on the new one, look, it only draws not even 1 amp. Well, that's impressive, isn't it? Okay, now let's turn on the compressor. That's going to be the big difference. I guess another thing, so remember the Furrion has 2 motors. You got a fan motor, just, you know, that circulates the air, but then you've got a separate condenser motor. So that's really the amp draw on only 1 motor. So the moment I flip it to cool, we're going to kick in the second motor and of course the compressor. So let's see what it spikes up to. There it goes. You see it briefly spiked at 21 for a split second. Okay, let it settle down. But now this, and I've noticed this is kind of interesting. I've been playing with this thing for about 3 days now. And when I first turned it on, I was getting like a steady 15 amps. But I noticed as it runs, the amperage is getting lower. So I don't know if it's just, you know, the bearings or things are getting broke in, limbered up, and the loads are getting less and less. Because remember what our book says, it should be pulling 15.4 amps. Like I've seen it at first, but I'm not seeing that now, which that's a good thing. And check this out, like I said, it's 91 degrees here in the RV, and it's blowing out. There you go, 54 degree air, 53. I'm really impressed with this thing. It really does a great job. And now you see our amps are settled down, 12, 13 amps. Oh, and I did learn something when I called, I was talking to Coleman. I called their tech support because I was kind of curious. I noticed, you know, according to the Coleman, on my model, it should be pulling, you know, about 10 amps, but I'm only running about 8. So, and I don't know, I wonder if as they get older and worn, the compressors get weaker, maybe the amp draw slowly gets less. So that's why I'm only seeing about 8 amp draw on my old unit. But another thing, I asked them, you know, the difference in the amp draw, and he said back in the day they designed these things to be as low amperage as possible. I guess they call high efficiency models, so that I guess the idea was thinking, and a lot of the older RVs only had 30 amps, or a lot of campgrounds only had 30 amps. So they wanted to keep the amps as low as possible, so they used low amp motors, low amp compressors. So maybe nowadays it's not such a big deal, but you know, there is going to be an amp draw difference. You can see between a Coleman and a new Furrion, but that's not much. But I'll take the better cooling any day. Alright, so next up is our sound check. Remember before, I got look at my notes here. Originally on the old Coleman I had a 57 and a 55. 57 on high, 57 dBs, and 55 on low. And you can see it's running about the same. It might be 1 or 2 dBs lower, because when I talk it's bouncing the needle even more. Let's kick it on low and see what it does. Alright, go to low, go to low. Well, the average says 48. Maybe that's what you need to go by, because it just bounces all over the place here. And let me open up these vents, see if it makes much difference when we dump the air straight into it. That makes a little bit more noise. Yeah, just a little bit. The average went up just a tick. Anyway, that's about the same as far as sound goes, but the outside sound, I believe, is quieter. It may be because it's got a screw compressor in it. Remember, it doesn't have the reciprocating pistons like the old Bristol. Wait a minute, I said Bristol. I don't think it has a Bristol compressor. It might, but I meant to say old Coleman. I forget what brand of compressor they use. I just remembered something else. I noticed that this thing's running, see, my amps are creeping up a little bit more, getting close to 10, which is closer to what the book says. So when I called Coleman, I asked him why I wasn't seeing the same specs. He says these specs are based on a 95-degree day, and we're about 90. So that makes sense. The other day when I was testing and I was only seeing like 8 amps, it was a cooler day. It's only maybe 75 degrees or so. So that all makes sense. So temperature does play a big difference on these amp loads, it looks like. Still 91. Of course, you know, I've got doors open and windows open because I'm trying to load everything up good and hard so I can do a good test on it, see how it does. Okay, so I know I've been long-winded like I always get on my videos, but trying to wrap it up here for you. Wanted to point out one thing. So if you want to go this route, go to the website Furrion.com. I'm hoping I'm not screwing up the name too bad. And you got a lot of different options here. You got the 15.5s, 14.5 BTUs, 13,500. And of course the amp draw is different. I believe the 13,500 BTU only pulls 11.2 amps. So if you happen to have a motorhome that's only a 30 amp system, then you know you might want to not choose a 15,500. Give yourself a little breathing room. Like I think I shown you there, what was I settling in about 14 amps with it running on about a 90-degree day. So even if I had 2 of these in the future, if my old, you know, I still got a 20-year-old Coleman in the back, if it craps out on me, I'll most likely go with another Furrion on the rear. But you know, I may choose to go a little bit less amperage, or I mean maybe a 13.5 instead of a 15.5. But I think the 15.5 here for the living room is the way to go. You still got my temperature gauge sitting up there while I've been testing it, but tickled, just pleased with it as I could be. Oh yeah, I was going to show you here. You can see right here there on Amazon that there's a whole kit. So this works for both the Coleman and Dometic. So right there's the kit. It converts it over. You get the wire and harness. Remember, you get to use your old thermostat, your old control box. It's plug and play, easy peasy. I know I helped a lady put in one last year. We was down here at Kissimmee, and it was a shoot, what was the name of that thing? I believe hers was a Dometic. And it was kind of weird because when you first got it, it had this weird system, the way the fans ran all the time. They never would shut off. It was kind of weird setup. You had to buy another control box and different things. It was kind of a complicated install because you had to buy all this other stuff to make it work the way you wanted to. But I was really pleased how this one just plug and play. So if you was on the fence about this, call the tech support. I did call the tech support twice. Got right through, wasn't on hold. They answered my questions, and really pleased with the tech support so far. So if you have any questions about this as time goes on, I'll put more testing on it and run it, and hope everything will be good. So anyhow, thank you so much for watching, and you have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you later. See you, bye.